by the time I was done with the rewrites and edits, I hated it. And when I hated my book and it came out, I had no motivation to market it. And my mentor who taught me, and he's very good, don't get me wrong, but he's kind of cracking a whip. You go out and play football, I always had coaches that be barking at you and yelling at you and cussing at you. It's demotivational to me. I like some positivity. And because I got so beat up in rewriting it, I didn't market what today I recognize as an extremely good book on fatherhood. This book is an excellent, excellent book. But at the time that I wrote it, I was demotivated as heck because I got beat up so much in the rewrites and edits. So loving it.
One last point, Keith. 4 weeks ago, this was not even an idea in my mind. Driving this up to Salt Lake in the car, thinking to myself, I don't like that. I'm working on short stories. I was going to try to finish that one, but that really doesn't finish it. It's a little short story. Maybe it's not. I need a book. And
I have a question for you. When you see that, you're looking at 30 to 40 days to finish the first draft. Doesn't that motivate that heck out of you?
yes, and I do work every day. I'll accept it.
To me, when I know, okay, this is not a year-long project. I did write a novel, it took a year, with 3 other writers. My fatherhood book took me a year and a half. But when I know, hey, I'm sitting down, I wrote How to Write a Book in 30 days, I wrote it in 8 days. And I knew I was going to write it in that 11-day period I had. And I thought I was going to use the whole 11 days. I only needed 8. When you know that, it just keeps you moving. Especially once you get it going and you get the rhythm. It's just like hitting that rhythm and they just flow, like you say. It's
Brooklyn Boy, my first novel, for 38 years. Now, maybe 35 of those years it just sat in the closet or traveled with me all over the world. But it took 38 years, and when it was finally finished, so different from what I thought it was. But when it finally finished, I said, I love this book. I just reread it each time. I mean, I love it.
Loving your book, there is no, it's like Porsche. There is no substitute. Loving your book, there is no substitute.
I just finished Robbins. I have your book and boy at home. Now I'm done with her, we'll do a review, we'll start on Billy, see what you've got.
But you're almost done.
Yeah, I had a really bad day on Wednesday. I ran into, I guess, my judge, and it doesn't happen often, but it did hit me on Wednesday, and I thought, oh, crap, this is all crap. What am I doing? It's like, and my thinking at the time was, this is a desert. There's a desert with no water, there's no life, there's no dialogue that went in it, and that's what makes it cook. And I said, oh, no, I don't know how to put dialogue in it. I don't know how to give it life. So I put italicized. I'm a psychologist, so I like how people think. So I put their thoughts in it. And then I read someplace, and they said, you don't put your thoughts in it because you're telling the reader what they're thinking. I said, well, I think it's better for them to know what the character is thinking than have no idea at all, because there's not any real room. It's a seduction. And there's a lot of things going on, but there's not other than grunting and groaning, there's not a whole other thing. I mean, that goes back to the basic, and that sounds so hackneyed and everything like that. I just refuse to do that. But how do you give it life when there's a lot of interesting, to me, cool things going on? But I just had the worst day I've had writing in, I guess, 3 or 4 months. And the next day, I went back and I added some, where I could, added some dialogue, and it seemed to be, was better. And that's why I'm waiting for editing, because I know that dialogue, for me, is what makes it alive, what makes it tick.
A good editor will help you with that.
Yeah, but I had 5 or 6, 7, 8 pages of, I mean, like maybe 25% dialogue, and it just didn't work. So I need some help with that.
But yeah,
Overall, I thoroughly enjoy going to the library every day and writing for 4 hours. That's my schedule. See, I don't have a lot of excuses that you, for other people have, you know, swing sets to be done, kids getting surgery, all that stuff. I don't have a lot of that, so I have focused myself on going to the library, doing 4 hours a day, and I'm kind of proud of myself for being able to do that.
Yep, you should be. Because that's that habit thing.
Yeah.
You develop that habit, you will finish. The bottom line is, if you develop the habit, you make it a priority, you will finish. And that's the thing. Most people don't. There is something, the statistics, this is years old, probably 4 or 5 years old, but the statistics are that there's 7 to 8 million manuscripts sitting in closets throughout the United States where people just aren't finishing. 7 to 8 million, and that's probably conservative. So the person that finishes and perseveres, whether they ever publish it or not, is immaterial. When you finish it, it's a major accomplishment. Publishing it is a little bit more. And I should go back to editing it is a little bit more, publishing it is a little bit more. Getting it out there and really marketing it, that's where you really start getting.
The first time I really hit like a wall, in the past when I was like lost and where am I going next and this doesn't make sense here and all that kind of stuff, what I've done is I go back and do mindless
Rewrite.
I do that too, but I had somebody tell me this little thing here, take all the bats out.
Right.
So I had 2,122 bats and I took 1,000 out and actually it tightened it up. And it felt better. So as long as I can see it and I can see that it's getting better, I'm excited about it.
You're sneaking in a little bit of rewrite there, because that's one of the things we
Well, I do it just because it's mindless and I don't have to think about it. And then after an hour, 2, 3 hours, when oh man, that's what I need to do. So I'll jump right back into that and while I still have it in my brain and put it right into my story. I also have done in the past, I have jumped over to a short story that I was reading and that I really was excited about. I know where that's going, and bang, 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 and I start doing that and the juices start flowing in. And when I get that to the point where, okay, then
That's a good point. One of the things I usually bring up, and I haven't so far, is you can track more than just your word count on your book. If you jump over and you start writing a short story or something, a lot of times that's going to trigger stuff into your book. So if you need the positive reinforcement of seeing your word count go up even faster, I tell people, go ahead and count the other stuff that you're writing. And it's all about positivity and keeping your mindset on, forget that judge tells you you can't do this or whatever, and stay positive. So that's actually a great way to do it, is switch off to something and it leads you right back to where you want to be. It works.
excited again.
It does.
Just a little trip that's worked for me.
Good.
I learned.
Mr. Agan.
Well, got a few thousand words done last week on the story, which felt good. And
That's
I also worked on the blog.
Antigen?
Yeah, the Antigen. I moved back over to it from when I started originally. I'll save that for another project later, because it's an entirely different universe, entirely different set of rules than what the Antigen is. I feel more like the Antigen story is my baby, and I really want to work on that and get it moving. And the blog site's coming along. I gotta go over some more updates on that on Tuesday to see if it's all coming together. But what I'm gonna do is, start knocking out 1 or 2 short stories a month and posting that just in the world of the Antigen, so the little vignettes, people can get a feel for what's happening there while I get the novel finished up, or novels.
That's a good way to bring in people that are going to be attracted to your book. I like that idea a lot.
So we'll see how it rolls. I like the look of the site, the way it's coming. We're trying to move it cutting edge so it's, it attracts the techie people. They're wanting to see stuff like it's got.
Yeah, if you're writing high sci-fi like Techie's good.
Yeah. So, having a lot of fun with that, and just,
Does that keep you motivated to write?
yes,
Good.
yes.
I
And it's,
mentioned projects are good. That's a project. That'll help keep you going.
I'm hoping another week or so we'll be able to open it up and let everybody see it. It's still rough outline form at this point, there's no content. We're getting the layout together, getting photos and stuff picked to put in, pictures in different places. I gotta finish designing my logo that I'm gonna have. Got the rough element of it down, but, it's just rough. I mean, we gotta do some polishing, get the words where they need to be, curve them the right way, fonts, all the detail crap.
Right.
But concept's there. And then, just, it feels good of it, and so I'm excited. And I feel like it automatically lets you know you're dealing with something sci-fi as soon as you hit the site. And then when you go into it, then I'll have like Tales of the Nanogen, you go in there and there's all the little short vignettes there. And I was going to post them in probably like rough draft form initially. And then at certain points, clean them up, polish them, edit them, and put them out as an anthology and make them available.
Yeah, the good thing about a blog is you can throw them out there in a rougher form, you can get away with it. And a lot of people do that, they'll then collect them and put them into a short story anthology book.
Yeah.
And it will have a market. The thing is to do whatever it takes to keep you in love with your book and to keep you in love with writing it, finishing. Finishing is the big key. And a lot of people say, I don't think you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem, Mel, with figuring out when to stop.
I'm having a hard time figuring out the endings like I was telling her. What I've basically done is write 3 or 4 endings and throw them up against the wall, and then I go back 4, 5, 7 days later and I look at them and see which ones make sense, which ones don't. Maybe this will work, but I need to add this or that to it, and I get a little more perspective. And I'm having struggle with the end.
For what it's worth, my mentor told me, or actually told everyone years ago, when you feel like you're 80% done, go ahead and start rewriting and edit. I don't know about 80%. That seems low to me. I think I want to feel like I'm like 90, 95%. I just think a writer gets to a point where they go, I'm done with this. And then some people take longer than others. I had to have permission to not write anymore on my fatherhood book because I had 22,000 words, and when my mentor came up to me and said, how's the book going? I said, well, I got 22,000 words, but I can't think of anything else to write. He just looked at me and said, you're done. Oh my God. I mean, this whole huge weight just went off of my shoulder. I'm like, really? He said, yeah, you're done. Now we get to go through rewriting Ed. Little did I know what I was in for there. But that, I was done, was a huge kind of a defining moment. And then I went through a few months of rewriting Edit where I got beat up. And it shouldn't be that way. And that's one of the things I want. That's why I devote the last class just to that. Because I want you to understand that rewriting Edit is a creative, positive, and you said it, you start seeing your book get tighter and better and better and better. And as you see it get better and better, Georgia has the best quote I've ever heard. She went through 4 weeks of her 3 months, and if she come in with the rewrites, and we meet every week, and she just come in every week with her head down. And I was like, Georgia, don't get beat up from this. It's a creative process. Your book's getting stronger. But in week 4, she came in and she's like, she calls me Mr. King. She goes, Mr. King, Mr. King. I'm like, what? My book is starting to look like the books I buy at the store. Yes! Yeah, from that point on, she has not had a problem with rewriting that. She's on, her 3rd book is in edit right now. She embraces it. So that's one of the biggest things I want you all to walk out of here with. Yes, you need to finish your first draft, which was my main priority. But walk into rewrite and edit and know it's not easy. You're going to be fighting through some stuff. There's a lot of work involved, but it is creative and it can be positive. So just keep that file away.
The thing with the story you're writing, Mel, that I would find hard is that it's fictional, but it's based on a real situation. Well, that situation hasn't ended. So it's like, it's leaving you like, well, where do I finish my story?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to kind of look at some point where you can break it and chalk it off. Or just you can put down at the end like a lot of people did, and then they look happily ever after. Or it sucked for the
You
rest
can
of
end
the
it where it's open-ended.
Yeah, but everybody I talk to says that's not very satisfying and,
No, but there's so many books that do end like that, and you leave the reader in a state of, like, wow,
what
they
happens
can kind
next?
of, yeah, or they
It
can,
doesn't-
they can fill
doesn't
it in,
fully
or,
resolve. You know, it's life. It's
yeah, exactly.
This one's gonna end, she went her way and I went my way and.
There you go.
And now
Maybe
we just
never
leave
between
it.
shall meet.
Maybe.
But maybe
Well,
so.
but you're not dead yet, so you don't know. But you can end it with the going your own ways.
Remember that you said one key thing there. And pardon my French, but screw what other people say.
Yeah.
You end it the way you want it.
Yeah.
You can hold everybody in the world, and you're gonna get everybody in the world a little bit different opinion. You end it the way you want to end it, it will resonate with the people it's supposed to resonate with. That's hard when you're writing your first book or your second book. It's really hard to look at it that way. But it will find its audience if you go out and look for it. But you have to be satisfied with it. The thing is, if you tack an ending on because someone else told you this is the way it should be, you're not going to resonate with it as much. You're not going to have the sense of pride with it as much. And one of the, and again, this is my belief system. This is the way I see writing. Doesn't mean you have to adopt it. But anything you do that connects you with fulfillment and happiness for your book, do it. And anything that makes you cringe and go, oh, I don't want to, like taking out all of the Italian words in a book, because she had a lot of Italian phrases in her book. And the editor wanted to take out the bulk of
The
it.
accent.
The accent.
In
yeah.
Soulmates, I wrote a character with an Italian accent, and I lessened it, but I'm glad I left it and went with my gut, because everybody who read it was like, oh my God, I
Well,
love
it
the
makes the
Italian
character
accent. Yeah, it
Trust
built
it.
my character.
That thing I had up on the PowerPoint a few minutes ago, trust in your ability to write your book, because no one else can write it. So, you know, I'm not trying to knock other people's advice, but you write, listen to them, but you write it the way you want. You finish your book the way you want to.
I talked to my buddy and he says, no problem, he says, just kill her off. She says, no, I liked her a lot at the time and I still like her and I'm not going to kill her off. And as a matter of fact, I might revisit her at some point, place down the road.
There you go.
So you know that ain't going to work.
Or just write her as a zombie.
Well,
And I've grown attached to her, I have to
an
say.
ending for a book like that, you can totally do it in an epilogue and give just like your philosophy, say, of what could have been, what will be, what, and just have that as the ending, where it's still kind of open, but it's closed. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything doesn't have to be sewed up in a little package.
Right.
You can do leftovers.
You,
It's not like
just
it.
give it like a
You just gotta
little,
find a way for it to do it.
If, like we're talking, making a trilogy out of it is, you have to leave the door open for the third part.
There you go.
So that means that's very clear to me, so I have to find a way to do that. I think I found some ways that make some sense, I have to flesh it out, I think, but, she goes her way, and I go my way.
I like your practice of writing 3 or 4 endings,
Mhm.
throwing them against the wall, and seeing what works and what doesn't. You might take some from this one, some from that one. You may not use any of them, but at least you're putting something out there and you're seeing if it works for you.
Another writer, Mary Beth, she's hung up the same way on her book. She's been sitting 1 or 2 years on basically a finished novel, she can't close it out. It satisfies her, but it's, again, it's a life story that's real, and she's made fiction of it. But it's, but because the participants are still going on with their life, she can't find a way to match the story.
Yeah.
And she's hung up on that, how to close it out.
The pulling the trigger is the big deal. Now, Jim, you've got 3 books under your belt. Pulling the trigger at the end and getting it published, that's really a super defining moment. It really is. You gotta have that ability. Too many people get, and it's not just her, it's literally millions of people get to that point and they won't pull the trigger. You know, especially today. Now, this wasn't true 15, 20 years ago, but today, you pull the trigger and you don't like the ending a month from now, you go back and rewrite it. And everything can get fixed like that. Everything's digital. Even your paper copies, now the ones that have already been printed, okay, they're out there, but if you're only a month or 2 in and you really have to change that ending, you feel really compelled to do it, you can do it in every book from that point on.
The original one becomes collectible.
Yeah, the original one becomes a collector's item, exactly.
My record Robin's book was that at the ending, she ties it up in a nice neat little bow, and it's, so why the hell can I do that? You know what I'm saying? Mine is.
She's a skilled author.
Well, hers we go happily ever
Yeah,
after.
but my books are different, and honestly, when I was writing both books, I have the beginning, I have the end. My hell is in the middle, writing to the end. And then my end might change a little bit, you know, as the story flows, but ending them for me is, I'm fine with that.
I didn't have any clue how I was gonna end it, and I still don't know for sure. But as I was writing, it just kind of wrote itself. She took over the whole story and made it hers and
And that's what happened.
took off. And that's just, and I don't know where it's going. And that creates, so if you already know the ending, I mean, that would be a huge advantage. I would-
Well, in a way, I know how, it's,
Most
you know what I
romance
mean?
novels, they
Right.
happily ever after. And, you know,
There is a rule
So
to
I've got an
romance to
ending
make
for
them
mine,
happy.
it's the part that's corrected too.
This is a good opportunity. I brought Robin in. Everyone knows Robin. Hold your book up for Pat over there at the camera. Her first book, Soulmate's Promise. Second book, Absent, which just came out. Soulmate's Promise will be 1 year old September
Yeah.
28th.
This is gonna have an anniversary, and
Have an
this just
anniversary,
came
2
out
weeks.
the beginning of August.
So I brought her in because she's been through this process obviously twice.
Yes.
And pick her brain.
You know what's funny, talking about rewrite and edit? Okay, this was the first book, look how thick it is. But there is good stuff in there. When I wrote Absent, I wrote it already in an editing mind, and I knew, oh, I don't need to go there, I don't need to do that, and I don't need to, and I just wrote it clean and cut, and it flows really well.
So you learned a lot the first time?
Yes, and
you
that's-
incorporated
yeah.
it into your second.
Although, you know, like I said, this story, though, it came at me fast, and I knew kind of where I needed to end it. So it wasn't gonna be as long as this one. But again, I think that had a lot to do with it, because I already went through the editing. So when I was writing, I was kind of like writing, editing. Not on purpose, but, and then, yeah.
Naturally came.
Yeah, I just really, you know, as I was writing, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to go on a tizzy or explain something for 2 pages long. Honestly, as much as I like Stephen King, sometimes he will explain something for 9 pages and I get like, as a reader, I don't want to do that. So as I'm writing it, I don't want to write like that either, but.
Who was your editor?
This book had Nancy Petrano, and this book had Karen Nicely. And I honestly, Karen and I edited this basically together, and it was a wonderful process. Although both times editing for me was not hard. I mean, really, I kind of enjoyed it because I saw my good book turn into a really great book.
And I hope that a lot of that came through because I've been preaching it to her for months and months and months and months.
Yeah.
That rewrite and edit is a good place to be. It's where your book, a good book becomes a great book.
At first I was scared because when, Soulmates is my first book. When I sent it to Nancy and then I got it back, when it came up and all this red was like crossed and I was like, and then I was like, all right, breathe. And then I read, and then I was reading and I was like, okay, all right, yes, I get this. She took what I wrote, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And I think that's why when I wrote this, it was quick and fast and good because I got it in a way, you know what I mean?
So how did you find your editors?
Well, he had Nancy, and then, do you remember when we did the book, in November, the book signing here? Or not here, no, in the library. Flagler Beach Library, a bunch of us did it.
Right.
This woman, Karen, just came up to me, handed me her card, introduced herself, and said, I'm an editor, and I was like,